So most of the time in business, we're thinking about there's a specific consumer need. We're going to develop a product to meet that consumer need or business need. But what systems change is all about is changing not just a specific element of a need, but rather an entire intertwined set of issues. If you think about climate, all these issues are connected with one another. How we travel from place to place, how we heat our homes, how we produce our various goods and services, how much oil and gas we use. You can change one of those things, but fundamentally we need to change many of them all at the same time in order to affect change, and that's what the essence of systems change is all about.
So we need to think about transition. And that's really where academics can help businesses in terms of building that path. How do we transition from our current business model to a more sustainable business model, sustainable in terms of being viable and will survive into the future? Now we're seeing it recently, the UK government has passed some legislation around banning the advertising of junk food because of the issues around childhood obesity and the rise in diabetes, which basically the healthcare system can't cope with. So unless food companies can transform the food that they're making because of the effects it's having, then they're not going to be sustainable. They're not going to be around because increasingly governments are going to say, actually, you know what? You can't produce that sort of food anymore because we can't bear the costs anymore as a society in terms of healthcare costs.
Nature is in vogue and it's about time. There's been decades worth of work gone on this. We are wholly reliant on nature for our economic activity and our well-being. As a society, our economic system doesn't value what matters. We haven't been working for the past 70 years with a system that values nature and people. And the predominant metric, which is GDP, which was developed in the 1930s following the Great Depression and then grew in popularity after the Second World War, was brilliant for that time, right? If we had more fuel and food and commodities, that equated with prosperity. And we had an abundance of nature at the time. Now, those things are not equating with prosperity. But because our economic systems don't value them, then we don't know how to address some of these challenges. And that's why we need policymakers and investors and companies in the room to help solve the problem with civil society.
So essentially, are you saying that Western society has been getting capitalism wrong?
We used GDP when we needed to understand how successful our economies were going to be. We had to rebuild our economies after the Second World War. The economy is a human construct. Every decision we make shapes the economy. And the economy is going to change because our decisions will change. So it's not that capitalism was wrong, it's that we are just evolving towards a different understanding of value and making sure that we value what matters and that is at the center of how we run our companies. It's about business resilience. All of these business leaders want to make sure that they are delivering value for their stakeholders into the future and into the long term. They will adapt to however that needs to happen. This is just the next evolution of the output economy. We're going towards an impact economy.